Hello, everybody. Welcome back to MasterAdvisor. Today is October 3rd, 2024. This is episode number 96. We're going to be talking about what's trending with clients, particularly in destination today. More particularly, I guess more specifically, what destinations are part of this Coolcation trend and what other factors are driving the market forward. We know a lot of things are changing. We know destinations are getting crowded. We know destinations are getting pretty hot too. So we want to talk a little bit about that and see where the conversation takes us. We have a lot to get to, but I want to make some announcements first, and then I want to introduce our sponsor as well. Couple quick ones, just as always. Switching into speaker view is going to be the best way to watch this episode today, and then the chat on the bottom right is open. If you have the three dots on the bottom right in Zoom with more, it'll be in there for you on desktop. Go ahead, drop any comments, any questions in the chat. I see a couple of people already in there. Hello to both of you guys. Hello, Richard, and hello to the other guests as well. Please don't be shy. Drop any questions or comments in there. We really love interacting with the chat, and we really think it makes for a better episode. So it's open, more than willing. Please employ the chat on your bottom right. In terms of schedule, we'll be back. We know we do these usually once every 2 weeks, sometimes once every 3 weeks. We're actually going to be back next week with another episode. With a guest, I'm just so happy to have Geraldine Rhee, who, if you've been to our shows in Canada, you know about Geraldine Rhee. The topic for next week's session is building a proactive sales team. It's going to be an episode specifically for agency owners, for leaders in the industry. I know a lot of you qualify under that. I know a lot of you don't qualify, but obviously, if you have any interest in maybe being an agency owner in the future or maybe building a team in the future, Geraldine is such a great person to speak to and to hear from. So if you aren't busy next weekend, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, October 10th, please join us. We'd love to see you there. We're so excited to have Geraldine. If you don't know her yet, I'm sure you'll know her soon. She's going to be in a lot of places around the industry. So October 10th, 1 p.m. The link to register is in the chat right now. If you want to register, please go ahead. So one more thing I want to plug before I go ahead and introduce our sponsor. I just want to drop the link to our YouTube channel in the chat. I know I say this every episode, but that's sort of the home to all of these episodes, to all of our audio content, to all of our video content. We've done a lot of great master advisors here. We just have a few left before we actually wrap up for 2024. But the last couple have been really special. We've done one with Leslie Sawhook of Exclusive Travel Partners on her history of building sort of a referral machine on TikTok. And then the 2 weeks before them, we spoke with Matt Hoffman of Hoffman Happy Travels, and he spoke about sort of doing the same with a YouTube channel. And he's in sort of rural Florida. He spoke about how it's difficult for him to find clients in his local community, and YouTube sort of became that stand-in for a local community. And I thought both those stories were really, really great. Really gave a lot of tips of how to conquer these video social networks. I really love speaking to both of them. So shameless plug. If you have time, please, the link is in YouTube. You can go ahead and check it out. And obviously, when you're over there, please like our videos, please subscribe. That helps us continue to build this community and bring you these every couple of weeks or so. All right. So before we start with our travel advisor, I'm so happy to welcome our sponsor for today. We're really lucky to have Kelsey Marchetti from Colette, who's joining us to tell us a little bit about Colette before we get into today's show. Yeah.
That unmute always gets you, right? Dan, thank you so much for having me. Colette is so excited that we can be part of such a cool event, right? Yeah. So, hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming today. As Dan had mentioned, I'm Kelsey Marchetti, the Virtual Events and Training Manager at Colette. And in case you're unfamiliar with who we are North America's longest running tour operator and the leader in guided travel since 1918. Our 107 years of experience is a testament to focus on keeping things fresh. And that is what we do. So I'm so excited that we get to come here and have Jason speak to you about Coolcations or low season, right? So here at Colette, we love learning. We love sharing new ideas and what we see as being really popular in the industry right now. And we are seeing a huge peak of interest in low season Coolcations And our tour designers are actively designing our small group element tours, our small group tours with elements, sorry, with that exactly in mind. So I've had the opportunity to visit some national parks in November and Sicily in April. And there is nothing like having Bryce Canyon or Taormina absolutely to yourself. I had a light jacket on and I didn't have to push through crowds. For me, I think Coolcations low season is exactly where it's at. So enough about me though. Am so excited to talk or to introduce you to Jason. He is a cruise planner owner. And just the other day, he was telling me about this light bulb moment that he had. And he said, I would rather win 0 awards for the most sold at one specific vendor, and I would rather place 6th, 7th, 8th, or even not at all, because that means that I'm picking the right tour for the right client at the right time. And here at Colette, we are obsessed with our travelers and finding the perfect fit for them at the right time. This commitment is in our DNA, and it's in Jason's too. And that's why we believe that Jason was the perfect person to speak on this. So without further ado, please welcome Jason. Jason, thank you so much for being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Daniel. Thank you also for the starting us off on this chat. Looking forward to a great conversation on off-peak travel and how cool destinations are the hottest trends in the industry.
All right, awesome. Yeah, so like Kelsey mentioned, we're talking Coolcations. I know we're going to be talking some hot weather destinations as well here, so it's not necessarily just places that are cool, but Coolcations, low season, off season travel is sort of where we're going to focus our conversation. But Jason, before we get into it, I was hoping you could just introduce yourself a little bit to the
Yep.
audience. Tell us how long you've been a travel advisor and sort of a little bit about what kind of travel you sell.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, my name is Jason Poole. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm a franchise owner of Cruise Planners, and I've been in the industry for 9 years. And I predominantly focus more to the premium and luxury market. I still have a good amount of family mass market business as well. And one of the things that I really pride myself is having a boutique-like service. I will help arrange transfers, flights, tours, custom guided tour, anything they want, I will take care of it. And I think it's important for an advisor to know all facets of the industry. So you can advise, help them with flights, the transfers, oh, you don't need to transfer at this airport. Your hotel's 3 minutes away with an Uber. So I love to travel, get out there, see the destinations, and then hopefully inspire my clients to do the same.
All right, awesome. So I want to talk a little again. I know what the topic today is. I was hoping we could talk a little bit about like what kind of demand you're seeing in general from your clients, specifically because I think that'll set the stage for why this topic is sort of becoming increasingly relevant as the months and the years go by. What kind of demand are you seeing right now, Jason, for travel? And I guess anything sort of jump out at you? Any trends?
Yep.
Anything new that is exciting or interesting?
So I would say especially post-COVID, we're seeing just people continuing to want to tick off places off of their to-do list. By the way, I hate calling them bucket lists because bucket list implies once you check it off, you're done. No, I call them to-do list. So we're seeing people wanting to do new things, new experiences. I'm having great success in pushing and marketing and recommending vendors such as Colette to people who would not have maybe been open to a different vendor before. We as humans like to get in our little boxes. We don't like to get out of our boxes. We pick a cruise line, we pick a hotel chain, we pick a city in Florida, we go to it over and over and over again. So I've noticed people are a little bit more open-minded in recent years. Now, as far as destination, I tell you, this past 9 months or so, I feel like I'm talking about Alaska every day, every day. And it broke my heart when people were calling me in the spring wanting inventory. I didn't have it. No one had it. Like ships were sold out. And, I was able to talk some people into some guided tours. Colette has some, some product. Abercrombie has some great products up there, no, not cruise based. So Alaska is just booming. We see that. Did you remember back in the day when only the crappy ships did Alaskan cruises? It was always the tired ships. I mean, now you have the cruise line sending new ships up there. Virgin Voyages is going to Alaska next season. I mean, that is wild. So Alaska is hot. If you were not talking to your clients about Alaska, you are leaving money on the table.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk a little bit more about Alaska. I do want to ask you, Jason, besides the supply, I know that's a big question. You mentioned the ships are full in Alaska. I've heard that elsewhere. And I've heard supply availability, land availability, tour availability in Europe this summer too. We've all had those conversations. What about pricing? I know that's the other big draw for a lot of, or that's a lot of things that changes the way people plan as well is pricing. How is pricing right now? In particular, how is airfare and what reaction are you getting from clients with whatever pricing you're seeing?
Airfare, about a year ago, we were all hearing those reports about how expensive air was. And look, it did kind of suppress some of my Europe business because the air was expensive. We have definitely seen softening of prices, especially with economy air. Business class is only getting more expensive. Look, it's a premium product. They can charge pretty much whatever they want. But just economy air, I'm definitely noticing a softening of prices. I usually tell my clients, for international economy budget, 750 to 1,000 per person. Sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, but normally you can kind of get them in that ballpark range. As far as pricing on like tours and cruises, I think prices have actually come down a pinch on the higher end, sort of like the suite products. We're seeing an increase in prices, and this is pure anecdotal, did not run the data. This is just what I've noticed. It seems like your non-suite prices are going up. And we've seen that on one of the recent earnings call. Jason Liberty at the Royal Caribbean Group said they felt there was a lot of room to grow and increase prices and get closer to land-based vacation prices.
Oh, so so you're seeing a little bit more of a bargain on this on the water as you would see on the land right now.
I still think the water or like a guided tour is typically going to be your best value. If for clients are looking for just pay a price and kind of be done with it.
All right. You know what, just let's start where you mentioned before. You're seeing a lot of interest in Alaska. And I'm curious, where do you think this interest is necessarily coming from? Like the topic of today is Coolcations. Obviously, Alaska might be the poster boy for that category.
Yep.
But why do you think there's been a increase in people wanting to go to Alaska?
I mean, I think it's twofold. One, I think the marketing has changed. The way the cruise lines, the way the vendors are speaking of Alaska, and the hardware has changed. So let's go back to the marketing. Alaska used to be marketed as relaxing, chill. It was for the very senior, older people. It's what you did in retirement. So true story, I went to Alaska for the first time a couple years ago. And I went kicking and screaming, Daniel. I did not want to go. I was like, Alaska, that's for like old people. I don't want to go to Alaska. Went to Alaska, and I am mature enough to admit when I am wrong, and I was wrong. And a light bulb went off, and I said, why aren't vendors marketing this as adventure? You can go kayaking, hiking, land on a glacier, go fishing. I mean, you can go be active in Alaska. And then you started seeing Norwegian putting good hardware up there, Celebrity putting good hardware up there, Royal Caribbean putting good hardware up there, Silver put the Nova, the brand new Nova up there, and better hardware makes people more excited to go.
Yeah.
And like when you even like the Instagram ads, they're getting more fun, the music's more lively, they're making it seem like it's a destination to go experience something versus just sit in a boat and just see trees.
I mean, when you're talking to clients about Alaska, what are the what's the common pushback you get maybe for people who are reluctant to take the leap
Yep.
you took? Yeah.
I don't want to go somewhere cold.
Okay.
I hear that all the time. And I'm like, it's actually not as cold as you think it is. Now, if you go in May, like I went twice this year. I went once in May on a land trip, and then I went on a summer cruise. And May, I mean, it was cool. I mean, it wasn't cold, but I mean, it was cool. So I hear I don't want to go somewhere cold. Now, I usually can push back on those people, but when they're my Canadian clients or my clients that live in New Jersey, I, I kind of get it. You live in that neck of the woods. I get it. You guys have much cooler weather than we do here. But what I try to do to tell them it's worth it is I share some photos, not stock photos, photos I have taken. And I share videos. I'm like, this is what it looks like. It is stunning. You have got to see it.
Yeah, I see we have some people from Miami in the chat, so they might have a different opinion as the Canadians or the people from New Jersey, but
Right.
completely understand. Yeah, I'm from New York, so I completely get it. So I want to sort of ask Jason, the conversations of the past 2 summers, in particular, people going to Europe, I guess, because that's the sort of the poster boy for North American travel in the
Yep.
summer. It seems to be Europe. Was Europe another popular destination among your clients, I guess, this last summer? Yeah.
Yeah, so Europe this summer did extremely well for me. I had countless groups. I have clients in Europe right now, and they picked this week because it was going to be cooler and it was less expensive and it's not as crowded. And so they asked me, are we making a mistake by going to the Med the last week of September, first week of October? And I said, absolutely not. Like, I got them a better deal. I got them great prices on flights. I used the Air Consolidator, got them a great price. Got them a cruise. I got them a pre-post with Kensington Tours. They're having a great time. And they're in like light sweaters and they're not dying from the heat. So I totally understand that some people are bound to a calendar. If they have children, maybe they're a teacher, their spouse is the teacher, for whatever reason. Some people are bound by certain times of the year they can travel. But if I can talk somebody into going to the Med in like late spring, early fall, I love doing that. I think they'll have a better experience than going in the peak of summer when everybody's there. Like you said, so it's like every North American is in Mykonos in July.
Yeah. So I guess starting with that first group of people, the people who are either bound by a calendar or either don't know any better or are set on those dates, set on those destinations, do you hear negative experiences because of overcrowding, because of heat, when they come back and when they talk to you, when you do sort of a trip recap with them?
So this summer was the first summer that I started to hear negative feedback from clients about the weather in Europe. I started to hear it was so hot, it was so hot, we were dying. And like I've been to Europe a million times in the summer, and I've often thought it is hot as well, but this is the first year I started really hearing it from my clients. And so what I'd say is I understand you have children and you're bound by summer. If you want to talk about next summer, let's talk about Iceland. Let's talk about Alaska. Let's talk about the British Isles. Let's talk about like Colette has this Northern Lights Finland tour that is just amazing. It's like, hey, we can do, I mean, granted, that's not in the summer, but like we can go find cooler weather options.
Yeah, so let's talk about some of those cooler weather options. We'll talk a little bit about crowded destinations, and we'll talk about sort of presenting these to clients. But Jason, you mentioned Iceland. I know that's one of your favorite destinations now.
Yep.
I know it's been trending for a number of years. I think even pre-pandemic, it was seen as sort of the next great destination.
Yeah. So I went Iceland for the first time 2 months ago or so, and I really didn't know what to expect. I got invited very last minute, so I really didn't have a ton of time to plan and prepare. but I mean, it was truly beautiful. It kind of reminded me of like Alaska before it maybe became kind of commercialized, like when you get to the central Alaska, it feels more like authentic Alaska, but that the inner passage Alaska, like, oh, there's a Diamonds International here. It's like there's no Diamonds International in Iceland. Like we went to this one town that had it was a couple hundred people lived in this little town. I cannot pronounce any of these towns' names. Okay. They're all just like three O's in a row. I can't pronounce any of the names, but it was truly stunning. It was beautiful. And Iceland is a lot like Alaska in that you can be chill, you can be relaxing if you want, but if you want to go be adventurous, you can. Like I went on a hike, a couple mile hike. I mean, it was called Chasing Waterfalls. It was absolutely amazing. I mean, beautiful, beautiful scenery. And Iceland's just getting more and more popular. I know Celebrity just announced they're doing some more itineraries around Iceland. Viking does a nice Iceland Greenland itinerary. Windstar does 7-night Iceland. So I mean, I think just people are continuing to talk about it.
Yeah. And are you like, again, I asked about the pushback from clients, but is it like, our clients, when you present them with the idea of Iceland, are there common misconceptions or are there things they ask or say that you're able to
Yeah, so
help them with?
people don't realize how close Iceland is. Like, it's 5 hours from JFK. Like, it is not a long flight at all. And actually, I mean, a little hometown bias here. Nashville last week just announced a nonstop flight, Nashville to Iceland with Iceland Air. So that will be a great selling point for me to get clients who live locally to go try it. But I think the flight from Nashville to here is like 7-ish hours. So I mean, it's really not bad. And then you're in Reykjavik. Reykjavik, a beautiful town. The addition in downtown Reykjavik is stunning. That's what I tell my clients. And I think it's a great trip. It could be a great family vacation as well.
All right, awesome. So Iceland, I'm presenting this as we get sort of as the heat and the overcrowding might become more of an issue. So Iceland seems to be I think Iceland's going to become one of those destinations, one of those signature destinations. Then Jason, you mentioned the British Isles. Anything you want to mention there? I know again, connectivity is fairly easy from the east coast of the U.S. to get to the
British Isles are easy. And also if you're on the East Coast, another easy one. There's lots of land tours and cruises that do the like Boston, New England, Canada. The fall foliage. That's always a good option for people who just want something different.
And then you mentioned Finland. Is Finland? So I haven't heard much about Finland, but is that something that? Yeah.
No, I mean, I haven't either. I know just that a lot of times people kind of knock off all the Scandinavian countries with like one like Baltics cruise. So not a lot of people just going, or from my end, I'm not getting a lot of requests for just Finland specifically, but I do get a lot of requests for either like I want the British Isles or I want all of Northern Europe or I want like a Baltics cruise. So I do kind of sell it as part of like a larger package.
All right, awesome. Another trend sort of I'm hearing from advisors and I'm hearing from consortia and hosts as well. And I see Richard, we'll grab those couple questions in a second. Actually, let's grab them now because these are sort of related to what we're talking about. So Richard specifically asks about do you feel Iceland is the new Alaska or what Antarctica? Is that something you're familiar with, Jason? Do you think that's
so I mean, I would say Iceland's kind of turning into to the new Alaska. I've thought that. Alaska still has an advantage if you want to do some more like lands that there's just a little bit more to do in like center Alaska, either like with a cruise tour, pre-post with the cruise line, or just fly up there. There's just a little bit more to do in Alaska. But Iceland, I think, is kind of becoming the new Alaska. Now, Antarctica, that's a totally different beast. Okay. Like completely different beast, completely different price point. I mean, it is, I mean, yes, there are some more affordable options to go down to Antarctica. Atlas has, some more affordable options to go down there. But, typically when I'm talking about Antarctica, I am talking about Viking expedition. I'm talking about, one of the new seaborne expedition ships down there. Like, you're just kind of at a totally different price point. So is it better? I I mean, look, I mean, if they've got 20, 30 a person, put them on scenic, take them down to Antarctica, and they're going to have a fantastic time.
Yeah. Like you mentioned expedition twice there, which I guess does kind of fit with Alaska, but it seems to be expedition seems to be Antarctica. Like that seems to be
Yeah, I mean,
tied
so
together.
when I think
Yeah.
expedition, I think you have to have a specific vehicle like made for that destination. Like I'm a big fan of the Galapagos Islands. And when you go to the Galapagos, I pretty much am always either putting people on Celebrity Flora or Silver Origin. Those are the two ships that were made for the Galapagos, 100 passengers max. That's it. When you talk about Antarctica, you're looking at the new Seabourn ships, Silver, Viking. Those ships are made for that region. I think Alaska could have elements of expedition if you do like the land stuff, but it's not like real expedition is like, I mean, when you're in the Galapagos, I mean, it's 2 ports a day. I mean, you're in bed by 9 o'clock. You're up every morning at 6 a.m. to do, breakfast in the tour. I mean, it's a totally different experience.
All right, awesome. And then you mentioned Northern Europe a little bit, but Richard specifically asked about Scandinavia. Is that a hot ticket item you're seeing now, Jason? Is that something
You
you're
know,
seeing your clients ask about or suppliers
and
invest in?
anecdotally, I have not heard a lot about Scandinavia. But again, that's just anecdotally.
Okay. So something we spoke about the other day, Jason, is something I've heard from hosts, heard from consortia, and heard from suppliers too, is that like when we think of summer travel, we think of Italy. But the task for advisors now is to maybe convince their clients that if we're going to Italy, maybe we shouldn't be in Rome, maybe we shouldn't be in these big popular cities anymore.
Yep.
Italy's a big country. There's a lot of European countries that are big countries that offer experiences outside sort of what's on the front of the guidebook. And I was hoping you could share any insights you have about that, like other
I
places
agree.
in Europe, yeah, that fit that
I
description.
agree 100% about Rome. I feel the way about Athens. Like I love Greece, love it. Athens, not my favorite city in the world. I love Italy. Rome, it's okay. It's fine. I think there's better cities. Italy, like I said, the massive country. There are beautiful parts of Rome that are off. I'm sorry, a part of Italy that are off the beaten path. I always tell clients though, if you've never been to Italy, you have to go to Rome. Like, you have to. You have to go see the Colosseum. You got to go to the Vatican. You have to see it. You got to check it off the list. And it's like, all right, now let's get you down to Capri, Amalfi Coast, Positano. Like there's just prettier parts of Italy. Now, in the summer, all those places are equally crazy, right? Like I had a group of clients reach out. They wanted a group to go to Italy and they were looking at summer pricing and we were looking at Colette and it was pretty expensive. And I was like, hey, what do you guys think about going in the spring? Much cheaper airfare. The Colette package was much more affordable. They're elderly, so it's like the cooler weather will be nice, won't be as crowded. Sold them a package, the whole family in the spring, and they're gonna have a great time because it won't be as crowded.
Yeah. It seems to me like the task is if someone's set on a destination, you have to pitch them other parts of the year. If they're set at a time of year to travel, you have to pitch them destinations outside of sort of one
Yeah,
might be in their comfort zone. Is that what you're? It's like is that the feeling
you know
as
what?
we move forward?
I agree 100% because I want to make sure my clients know I am more than just an order taker. Okay. Look, we all those people who call us, they know exactly what they want. It's easy to book it. We are thankful for their business and we'll gladly book it, right? But this is my philosophy. I don't ever want to be seen as the person that's sitting here waiting for my phone to ring and whatever the person calls and asks for, they get. I mean, just last week, client called me and wanted to book a certain cruise line, like $9,000 for this Christmas. Great last minute booking. Been happy to do it. Chatted on the phone, and after talking with them, I was like, I really think you'd be better suited to do cruise line. Why? The price was $16,000. They thought about it and then they booked it. Now, they joked that they were mad at me because they, went from 9 to 16, but they wouldn't have done it if they didn't think it was a better option. So I'm always trying to give clients another option just to let the, hey, you I always quote one option up. Someone calls me for, Royal Caribbean, I give them the Royal Caribbean quote, then I give them a celebrity quote. Someone called me for celebrity, give them the celebrity quote, and then a retreat quote. If someone calls for the retreat, give them the retreat quote, and then a regent. Someone calls for an Italy cruise, give them that, and like a collected tour. I always try to give somebody just something else to think about.
It does, like me talking to a lot of these travel advisors and having a relationship with all these travel advisors, it does get me excited for the future of the profession, because I think consumers are going to keep having those June or July experiences in the center of Rome.
They
And the
will.
people who are using travel advisors who are talking to you, Jason, are going to be able to have different experiences. Are going to be able to see Rome when it's less crowded. Are going to be able to reach the Trevi Fountain without waiting 3 hours for the crowds in front of them
Yeah.
to clear.
You,
Yeah.
you know what's crazy is I've been to Rome many times, and a year or two ago, I was there in late October. It was like the day before Halloween. And one of my friends, she loves Rome. She always gives me crap for not loving Rome,
Yeah.
but I'd always been in the summer. She had always been in off season. So I'm literally walking down the street and I see the Spanish Steps, and I call her from the Spanish Steps and I said, okay, I think you were right. Rome in the fall, it's better.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I'm curious. We have a lot of people in the chat today. If you have any destinations that might be off the beaten track, or it might be you think the future big destinations, please drop them in the chat. We have one question, Jason, from a guest who wants. He said you mentioned Celebrity Flora for the Galapagos, and there's another celebrity ship that's certified Galapagos and Galapagos only, right? And she just or he or she just wants to know what the name of it.
Yeah. So Celebrity have three, but they're getting rid of two of the older ones, selling them to Lindblad. So really, so Celebrity has one, Celebrity Flora, and then Silver Sea has one. It's the Silver Origin. Now, fun fact, they're the same ship. Fun fact. They built two ships identical. They're just painted differently. One Silver Sea, one's Flora. They're the exact same ship. So if for some reason you can't find inventory on one, you can hop in the other. They're the same ship.
Awesome. Yeah. We have a comment. Just everyone's aware the Catholic Jubilee is 2025, so Rome will be even more slammed. So I think that's a good point to make.
And also,
then last one. Yeah, go ahead.
I saw Richard asked, you send your clients on Alaska cruise tour. Yeah, look, when I sell Alaska, I tell clients there's two ways to do Alaska: round trip Seattle, or the 7-night one way with the cruise tour. And I tell them the 7-night round trip Seattle, I say, that's baby Alaska. And I said, I'm not saying that to be mean. I love it. I just did it a couple weeks ago. I love it. But I tell them, if you can afford the 10, 11, 12 days, go do the cruise tour. Because when you get into central Alaska and you get to go to Denali National Park, when you get to go to these ski lodge, I mean, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about this. One of the days I was there in May, it was another travel advisor. We were sitting there at this beautiful lodge, just drinking wine, looking at the mountain. It was a rare cloud-free day, which is more likely to happen in the spring, by the way. So if you go early, a little often clear weather. We were like, I cannot believe we're sitting here. Like these mountains, it was one of the best days of my life. And like the sun doesn't set. It was amazing. So yes, if you can get your clients on a cruise tour, do it, do it, do it. And it's commission with a comma.
All right. All right. So Iceland, Alaska cruise tours, British Isles, Canada, New England, and then if you're going to go to these hot destinations, off season is the way to go. Communicating to his clients is key. Richard asked a question, is an interesting one that we haven't talked about, Jason. And I know I've written a lot about these new tourist taxes or these new cruise ship restrictions on a lot of these ports. And it's like, I guess I don't want, if you don't want to answer this, is fine. But as like an advisor, as someone who is like an active participant in this industry, who obviously loves travel and loves these destinations, I mean, what is your feeling of this when travel seems to be getting more restrictive?
So I understand it. I do. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. I live downtown.
Yeah.
It gets crazy here. Now, I don't mind it. I think it's actually kind of fun. I tell my friends who complain about it, we wouldn't have all of these awesome hotels and restaurants and venues if it weren't for the tourists. But I live in a destination that gets insane. Okay. I understand these tiny towns. Like when I was in one of these tiny ports in Iceland, I was with Windstar, so there were fewer than 1,000 people on the ship. But then another mid-sized ship rolled up with a different brand, and I think they probably had like 3,000 people on there. And this town has like 600 residents. And it was just, I was like, we are overrunning this little town. So I understand the concerns. Like I know Juneau is talking about this, they're now restricting the number of ships that can be there per day. I understand it. But what I think is interesting is at least in the mainstream cruise market, the ships are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And Royal Caribbean has said, hey, our next class of ship, it will be smaller. So I think they recognize if we still want to service, I mean, like the Icon of the Seas cannot do a Greek Isles cruise. It can't. Okay. It's too big. Can't do it. Oasis class cannot do Greek Isles. Right. So I think we're going to start seeing some smaller ships, hopefully more sustainable, because that's a big topic in the industry now. What type of fuel are we running? Solar power. I mean, that's cool about the Celebrity Flora and Silver Origin and the Galapagos. They're very sustainable. Solar panels, they don't drop an anchor. Like they're quiet. They have like no lights on the outside. I mean, it's the cruise lines are aware of this issue.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems to be the biggest point for me. The suppliers are aware that the word sustainable is going to be the key word. It's going to be, you're going to want to make more money, obviously, as a supplier, but if you can't sustain it in the next decade or so, there's no reason to push it this far. So that's what I'm hearing as well. And it is interesting, like travelers are sort of, travel is so important, obviously, in society, and travelers as like stewards of the world and stewards of these vulnerable destinations, I think is going to become more and more of a conversation going forward. But that was a great question, Richard.
No, and and also, I mean, I know we talked about Colette a lot. I'm not bringing them up a lot because they're the sponsor. I bring them up because I really do like their product.
Yeah.
But they are also, have that new like small group product. And I think that's going to appeal to younger people who kind of are more concerned about making a smaller footprint at destinations. And it just makes it better. We're taking like one motor coach on this tour versus maybe a couple. So I mean, even the non-cruise people in the industry are very aware of this and are adapting to the current trends.
Yeah, small as a luxury, I think is going to be a big thing too. We talk about the definition of luxury all the time. Yeah, small seems to be small, exclusive seems to be a big thing, and I think that's going to continue.
I agree.
Colette, obviously, you mentioned, and I think cruise lines are going to be thinking about this too going forward.
I agree. I mean, look, that's why we're seeing Princess. I never thought we would see a day where Princess rolled out their version of the Haven Yacht Club, the Retreat. Like they're shipping a ship on their new ships that are coming out. There are people who still want that big ship experience, but they want a more exclusive experience. And we're seeing the sweet, ship in a ship concept.
Yeah, you want all the bells and whistles that comes with a new ship without the negatives that might come with that kind of crowd. Yeah. All right. So we have a few minutes left. Jason, there's a couple questions I want to ask you, and if anyone else has any more questions, please drop them in the chat. But something interesting the other day when we were talking about it, you mentioned a lot of people, I guess a lot of potential clients you might have, you had to have conversations about them with traveling internationally, as if that was because they had some trepidation or they had some fear about traveling internationally. I was hoping we could talk a little bit about that, about getting clients more comfortable doing something that's out of their comfort zone, whether it's traveling internationally or going to a different destination they're not necessarily known for.
No,
yeah. How do you feel?
This is one of my favorite things to do in the world is when people call me for, it's summer break. Here's a better example. I'm trying to have these conversations now for families for spring break of next year. And spring break cruises in the Caribbean or an all-inclusive resort in Mexico, it's expensive. Flights are expensive. The vendors are charging a lot at spring break. It's peak season. It's expensive. So I'm trying to have conversations with them of, hey, you could spend the same amount of money and go do a early spring Europe trip. It's cooler weather. You get to make better memories with your children. You can go, going to Spain, going to France, going to the Greek Isles. And people are always like, oh, it's the flights. It's the flights. And I tell them, well, you fly from like, pick any random city to Seattle for an Alaskan cruise. I'm like, it's not that much further. Like, I told them, I'm not saying the flight across the pond is not nothing. Look, it's called jet lag for a reason. It's not nothing. But there is not one person alive who, once they get over there, are mad that they're there. Okay. Everybody is happy when they're there. And we as advisors, we have great tools at our disposal to access unpublished airfare. And when you can utilize that and leverage it to your clients, you're like, hey, Southwest of Fort Lauderdale is going to be $1,000 a person. Or I could get you Delta to Rome round trip with the hotel for $1,000 a person. You want to go, to Italy instead? And so when they see that price in front of them, I think they realize it's more obtainable because people just have this notion, if they've never traveled internationally, that like going to Italy is like going to like Venus. And it's like, guys, it's not that far, okay? We're not on the Apollo program in a capsule for 3 days, okay?
Yeah. Yeah. And what's interesting is the other day you also mentioned that I guess the pain points, and one of them is the airfare, and you said there's obviously an easy way to get around the airfare, what you just mentioned. But there's other pain points that sort of they think that this is an insurmountable thing in their minds, that they think is going to be totally difficult, totally
Yeah.
inconvenient for them. Yeah.
So how I alleviate these concerns are a couple ways. One, you talk to like a great vendor is Viking. They also have year-round year-round Europe. So if you want a cooler river cruise, cooler ocean trip, Viking is a great product. And I love Viking, especially for senior clients who have never really traveled, because Viking is there to hold their hand the entire way. At certain number of airports in Europe, and a growing number of them, they're getting approval. They are at the gate at the airport.
Yeah.
So you land and in Amsterdam, Prague, where I don't know, have the list of airports in front of me. When you get off the plane, there is someone from Viking right there to help you get through passport control. They help you get to your luggage, get in the transfers. Now, everybody on this call is a seasoned traveler and doesn't need that level of service. But like my grandmother has never really traveled. If she could afford it, I'm putting my grandmother on Viking because they would help her every step of the way. So alleviating concerns about that. Another thing I do, if I book someone with a vendor that doesn't have transfers included or whatever, I go to Blacklane. Blacklane pays commission. They'll pay commission on time. Their website is so stupid easy to use. I book Blacklane transfers for clients all the time, and they pay a commission. And the client can download the app. The driver always texts them, and like if they're running late, the client can modify the drive in the app. If they're running late, I put in their flight number so the driver knows like what's the flight number. I love Blacklane. And so that helps alleviate a concern because when they know, hey, when I land in Athens, if I'm not with Viking or a cruise line that has the transfers, there's going to be a guy holding a sign with my name there. And who doesn't love getting off an airport and seeing somebody hold the sign with your name on it? I mean, everybody feels like a baller at that point.
Yeah. You feel very important. Yeah.
It is. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So just a couple more, Jason, and then we're gonna wrap it up. One I have, and then one I'm gonna grab this from the chat. So we talked about sort of getting clients to different destinations: Alaska, British Isles, Iceland, getting them in off season. You mentioned some people just can't move their dates, whether their family or their profession has a set schedule. They can't move their dates. Some people are immovable when it comes to destination as well. How important is setting expectations when you are in that situation and when they do want to go this place and they do want to go now and it might be a negative experience? How important is setting expectations?
It is easier to deal with the bad news early from setting expectations than they get there and you didn't tell them. Like I saw a lot of celebrity cruises. Some people do not like their infinite veranda balconies. They're very controversial, but it's just the way it is on edge class ships. Okay. Unless you're in a suite, like, or a couple there's some other not infinite, but for the most part, if you're in a veranda on Celebrity on their new ships, you're in an infinite veranda. I make every client who goes on that class of ship for the first time, I make them watch a video on YouTube. So they don't walk in that room and go, what in the heck is this? I'm going to kill Jason, right? I had a family go to Italy this summer. They called me in like May to book it for July. Was shocked it was expensive. But they were like, is it gonna be crowded? I was like, yes. Like, is it gonna be hot? Like, yes. Like, I said, if you don't want that, we can talk about somewhere else, but that's what they wanted to go. But I made sure to set expectations.
Yeah. So just making sure they know what they're getting into, I guess, and making sure there's no only good surprises, I guess, would be a better way to put it.
Yeah, I do try to keep some things kind of hidden. Like, there are some photos of certain destinations I won't share because I want them to be wowed when they see it for the first time.
Okay. All right. All right, cool. All right. So we had a question in the chat. Just because you're speaking about cruising, Jason, so much, I'm not sure if you would be able to answer this, but we have a guest who wants to know any key things to do in the Baltics during a cruise stopover for nature lovers, whether it's Finland, Estonia, Sweden, Denmark. Is that a region you're familiar with?
So believe it or not, I've never done a cruise up there. I had one booked and they got canceled right when Russia invaded Ukraine. So I have not done that cruise. So I cannot speak from firsthand experience. I want to. It is on the list.
All right. All right. And then the last thing, I guess, Jason, we spoke a little bit about this before we jumped on here, but cruise lines seem to be investing in the Caribbean year round. I'm curious, are you still getting a high demand for Caribbean sailings, even in the summer, even sort of?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Season?
So last summer, Celebrity had one, maybe it was 2 summers ago. It did the summer 2 ago. They had one ship there and it was doing like 8 night, 6 night, 8 night, 6 night. Sold out. I told a million people, I'm sorry, I can't find space for you. I'm sorry. So I was sitting on the Celebrity Beyond in the Med in the summer, dying of heat, when one of my sailings got redeployed because they were moving the Beyond to Florida year round. Now, like I said earlier, I'm a man of my word, a man enough to admit when I'm wrong. I was like, this is the dumbest decision Celebrity could ever freaking make. Who wants to go to the Caribbean year round on this ship? This ship deserves to be in the Med, blah, 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 right? Wow, I have made so much money with year-round Caribbean. Okay. Thank God the Celebrity Beyond is year-round Caribbean out of Florida. It is a huge hit. Look, there are people who either don't have the time to go to Asia, to, Australia, to even Europe. They don't have the time. They don't have the resources, right? They could, being able to drive, especially if they're in a drive market. And look, I have clients who are world travelers who sometimes just want to get away. They just want to get on a ship, a nice ship, go to the Caribbean, not think about anything, and just relax. So the Caribbean isn't always for the, oh, I'm scared to cross the pond people. It can also be just hey, I just want to go relax. So Caribbean has been huge, and Port Canaveral is just exploding you're seeing cruise lines put the new Icon class Star of the Seas is starting in Port Canaveral. I never in a million years had Port Canaveral getting a brand new ship on my bingo card. Like, never. So, cruising is still hot. Caribbean is huge. I just try to talk them into doing something different. But at the end of the day, if it's what the client wants, then I try to get them a better room on the ship.
All right, awesome. Jason, honestly, thank you so much for joining us this week. I've learned a lot, and it's always nice to hear a cruise planner agent talk about cruising, and we had Colette talk a little bit about land tours and things like that. So I think we got the best of both worlds. But thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I know there were a few questions I didn't get to. Oh, someone answered the Black Link question in the chat. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we got to most of them. And if we can answer anyone and maybe after the fact too, we'll do our best. But thanks again, Jason. Kelsey, thank you so much for joining us earlier too. I see Kelsey back on.
Thank
Okay,
you for
bye,
having
guys.
us. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
right,
Thanks for having me.
See everyone next week, hopefully with Geraldine Rhee. Otherwise, hopefully everyone stays safe, stays healthy. And yeah, we'll see you soon.
Okay, bye, guys.